juiciest stories. Then she had rounded off this most peculiar day by offering Maggie refreshment in her own private drawing room. It was while the two had chatted over tea that Madame du Barry devised this harebrained scheme. Clattering her teacup down in its saucer, she'd sat up abruptly, her eyes on the clock in the corner. "What time is it? Nearly 7. Oh, really, this is perfect timing. You must witness this, Lady Maggie. Really, you must. You shall thank me for it, I promise." So saying, the woman had stood quickly, grasped Maggie's hand and dragged her from her chair, then hurried from the room and along the hall. Before Maggie could even collect herself enough to ask what she must see and why, they had reached this chamber. Madame du Barry shoved her inside, installed her in the cupboard with admonishments to remain quiet and see, then had instructed young Maisie that Maggie was to witness the night's proceedings. She had fled the room nearly as hurriedly as she'd ushered Maggie into it. Maggie, stunned by the abruptness of the event, had remained still and silent for a moment, before the cramping of her muscles had forced her to shift positions and draw the wrath of the shapely young Maisie. Really, had she been a bit quicker, Maggie might have managed to flee the room before Maisie's customer arrived. Now it appeared she was quite stuck. She sighed irritably and tried to ignore the murmur of voices from the room outside. Maggie had no desire to learn anything more than she'd learned in her interviews. "And I won't," she assured herself. "I simply will not look through the crack to see who Maisie's client is or what they are doing." She frowned as the voices drew closer. The man's slightly deeper timbred voice struck a chord of recognition within her. It sounded amazingly like... Her gaze slid to the crack despite her best intentions, and Maggie drew her breath in with a hiss. Good Lord, it was him, Pastor Francis. Her eyes narrowed on the man. She had just been discussing the fact that he was paying her court, and that she thought he might soon propose, when Madame du Barry had rushed her up here. Maggie was distracted from further thought by an odd question from Maisie. "Who am I to be tonight, my lord? Your mother?" Maggie's eyes widened in shocked dismay at that, but they nearly fell out of her head at Francis's answer. "Nay, tonight you shall be my dear Margaret." "Sweet Lady Wentworth, is it?" Maggie was almost too shocked by Francis's presence to notice the irony in the young prostitute's voice. Almost. "The woman who personifies the very word lady. The woman who never sets a foot wrong, who is discretion herself." Maggie couldn't help but wince slightly at the pointy edges of Maisie's words. She also experienced a touch of alarm as she realized that, in her excitement, Madame du Barry had addressed her by her real name when she'd brought her up to this room. She forgot all such concerns when Francis answered, "Aye, my sweet Maggie. I've decided to propose to her. I arranged to take her to the cousins' ball tonight. I shall propose to her afterward. I believe she will accept." "Oh, course she will, Governor. A great strapping man like yourself." There was no missing the irony in Maisie's voice then. At least Maggie caught it. The jibe seemed to slip right past the rather thin and emaciated Francis. "Fine. You be Maggie then, and I shall practice on you." There was a moment of critical silence before he murmured, "You had best put something else on." "Something else?" "Well, Maggie would never greet me so scantily clad." "Not even if the house were afire," Maggie agreed under her breath. Through the crack in the armoire doors, she took in Maisie's costume, what there was of it. Sheer silk and red, it covered absolutely nothing. It was scandalous. There came a moment of uncertain silence. Then Maisie heaved an impatient sigh. "Fine, then. You step on out into the hall and I shall change. Give me 5 minutes, then knock." "Why must I wait in the hall?" Francis whined. "Well, you want it to be as if you were proposing to Lady Wentworth, don't you? Would she dress in front of you? Get on with you. I'll only be a minute and this will seem more real." Through the crack, Maggie saw Maisie usher Francis out of the room as firmly as she herself had been shoved into the armoire. The prostitute closed the door behind the pastor with a snap, then locked it. She was a no-nonsense type of woman, it seemed. "Thank God!" Maggie burst out of the armoire as Maisie unbolted it. "I thought I should suffocate in there. Now get me out of here." "You know where the door is," came Maisie's unconcerned response. The young woman was digging through her...